Friday, October 6, 2017, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. So we're going to look at the markets early this morning. It's 9 a.m. London. And I also want to look at the at fiat currencies and what they represent and why they're all sinking, and why the only way to protect your savings from the sinking of fiat currencies is to hold physical gold and silver. And I also have a look at this book, The Law, and look at one of the quotations, so to speak, from Frederick Bastiat. I really recommend this book to everyone who loves freedom, free markets, and small government. Frederick Bastiat was a French economist, philosopher. He died in 1850, and he wrote this book just before he died. It's a short book. It's only about 70 pages. I think you can find it on, you can Google it, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, and you can find it a free PDF online. So let's start with the markets first. So this morning, gold yesterday did the same thing as it did on Wednesday. Was fairly strong early on in the day, and then as the US came in, it weakened on the COMEX close. It actually closed on the lows of the day. So no surprise there. The management of the price continues for now. So we're at 1268.50, which is actually up 30 cents from the late COMEX close. This is spot gold though, by the way. Silver 1660, up 2 cents. The range in gold has been very narrow overnight, 1267 to 1270. Silver 1656 to 1664. The Dow is up 9 points, 22,778. S&P is virtually unchanged. The currencies, interesting move here in the British pound for the last let's say here, for the last few weeks, we've really come down. We went up all the way to 136 from a low around 127.70 in the end of August. We traded all the way up to like above 136. Let's see what the level was, 136.50. And now the pound, as I speak here, is at 130.71. So almost breaking back below 130. Why is this happening? Well, there's a lot of uncertainty about the government here in the UK. There's talk that even though we had the election earlier this year, there's talk that a lot of people within her party want the Prime Minister out. Yeah, I personally think this is all short-term noise. Long-term, the UK and all the other Western countries, their currencies are doomed. Their fiat currencies, they're all sinking. But they just, the dollar is, of course, the top dog. The dollar, still the global reserve currency. About 2/3 of global reserves are held in dollars. So basically, all the other fiat currencies or fiat money have a dollar backing. And they are taking turns. The dollar's weakened a lot this year, up until a few weeks ago, and then the euro and the pound were strengthening, and now there is, they're all sinking at the same, different times. It's all managed by the major central banks and the Bank for International Settlements, which is the banker for the central banks. And they also do that with gold, together with gold, because they try to keep all the major currencies, they call them the hard currencies, all pretty much, within a parameter of value. It's interesting because Lindsay William made a video decades ago, I think in the late 80s, about a guy he met at a prison in the US, an English banker, Jonathan May, and Jonathan May explained to him back in the late 80s that the major central banks through the BIS, they control the so-called hard currencies, which are, the used to be the Deutschmark, French franc, but now, and the yen and the pound, but now the major hard currencies are the dollar, the pound, the euro, the yen, the Swiss franc, the Australian dollar, and the Canadian dollar. These are all managed by the central banks. The other currencies, like in the third world countries and developing countries, they don't get as much support from the BIS, of course. So that's what I mean by they're all sinking. Eventually, they will all sink to the bottom against real things. And the money of real things is, of course, physical gold and physical silver. Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, why hasn't gold done well? But, if you look at it, back in 1971, 73, gold was at $35 an ounce. Now we're at $12.68. And you look at all the other currencies as well, gold has done very well. It's just a law of supply and demand, because you got to look at it historically. Why is the dollar called the dollar? Well, it used to be a weight of silver and constitutionally also a weight of gold. Why did it used to be called the French franc? Because it was a gold coin called the franc, a weight of gold. Euro, of course, that's been, completely, that's changed everything, because it just kind of put all the old currencies to the dustbin. Of course, there isn't a gold euro coin, but there used to be a guilder gold coin. There used to be a mark gold coin. Even the ruble was a gold coin. So, and now all these names are just pieces of paper that are promissory notes, that are debt. And these pieces of paper, they've grown more and more, exponentially compared to how much gold and silver have been, mined and taken out of the ground. So it's just a simple matter of supply and demand. The central bankers, of course, control quite a bit of that supply of gold above ground, and they can use that to control the price, but they can't do it forever. They can do it for quite a while, though, but their scheme will end. And that's why I want to come to this book now, The Law, and it just goes to show you how these schemes by basically socialists, and I include the left and the right in this. I don't think there are conservatives, the conservatives and the socialists, or the Labour Party or the Democrats in any country. They're all socialists now because they interfere so much in the economy. Have you seen President Trump come out, or Republican Congress come out when they win the elections and, cut down the size of government? No, they haven't. So this includes both sides of the political spectrum. So this is what Frederick Bastiat says, and I quote from page 31. It says, "The socialists want to play God." And he goes on to say, "Socialists look upon people as raw material to be formed into social combinations. This is so true that if by chance the socialists have any doubts about the success of these combinations, they will demand that a small portion of mankind be set aside to experiment upon." Does that sound familiar? This was written in 1850. The popular idea of trying all systems is well known, and one socialist leader has been known seriously to demand that the Constituent Assembly, that's in France, give him a small district with all its inhabitants to try his experiment upon. So, and he goes on to say, "Moreover, even where they are consented to recognize a principle of action in the heart of man and a principle of discernment in man's intellect, they have considered these gifts from God to be fatal gifts. They have thought that persons under the impulse of these two gifts would fatally tend to ruin themselves. They assumed that if the legislatures left persons free to follow their own inclinations, they would arrive at atheism instead of religion, ignorance instead of knowledge, poverty instead of production and exchange. So, basically he's saying that these legislatures or socialists, they don't trust people, and that's why, they have to be in power and tell the people what to do. And if they don't, people will be inclined to become atheistic, ignorant, and poor. But if you think about it, we've had, 50 years of the welfare state, especially after the closing of the gold window. And what have we got? Well, we've got atheism, even though I don't talk about religion, but this is, part of this talk here. We've got atheism, we've got a lot of ignorance, we've got a lot of poverty, we got a lot of debt. So, and the fiat money is just, the socialists or statist tool of controlling human action, because they don't trust that the people can have, use their own intellect to have their own indirect exchange currency. And this is why I think what we're seeing with the cryptocurrencies, this is a symptom of the revulsion to the, to socialism and to the big government and the state. Yeah, we're still controlled quite a bit by the state, but eventually, they will, it will collapse. It's just like the Soviet Union. All of a sudden, it collapsed overnight. But many people knew, and they didn't really talk about it in the Soviet Union or Eastern Europe because, they were like prohibited from talking about it. A little bit like today, the fake news, the mainstream media, you can't talk about certain things. And that's why the internet has grown so much, even though we do have censorship in the internet too. But that's why if you're not prepared for the collapse of the fiat money system and the collapse of the welfare state, the collapse of big government, you won't be able to, to prepare yourself while it's collapsing, because I think it's going to be something that will happen overnight. When that will be, I don't know. You just need to be prepared. And I've spoken many times before how you prepare yourself. Financially, it's physical gold and silver. Economically is looking after your household, making sure that you live within your means. The other aspects, this is not something I cover here. That's for other people, the spiritual aspect. But I'm sure that having peace of mind financially and economically helps the other aspects of preparedness. And of course, keep living your life. That's the most important thing. So this is it for now. Later on today, of course, we've got non-farm payroll. The numbers expected to be quite low. The average expectations is 80,000 for mainly because of the weather-related, hurricane affected September jobs report. But there is, excuse me, a lot of discrepancy and a lot of divergence, of expectations. For example, UBS expects 125,000 new jobs. SocGen and Jefferies expect negative job creation. Goldman Sachs expects 50,000. And am I saying these numbers matter? They matter in the short term for the markets, for the noise, but they're just like the Soviet, statistics that used to come out and say that everything was okay. They're meaningless in my opinion. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, share it, and also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can follow me on Twitter and on Steemit as well. And I'll talk to you later. Bye.